Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of We Need to Talk. I'm Lianna Golden, and welcome back to the rest of our panel, Alesia Bani, BiBi Bosselange, and Suman Ann. I will be guiding you through today's episode, so without wasting any time, we're going to get started. Our first topic. We are in a world consumed by social media and technology, which can sometimes be very invasive in our lives. So my question is, do prospective employers have a right to look at your social media accounts? What do we think about that? Anyone? Alesia, you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because it is so widely used that no matter what, employers are going to look at your social media. I think especially if you have a public account, it's kind of fair game. If you're somebody that's a little bit more private, then I would say put your social media on private and just, protect your privacy. At the end of the day, we all are kind of building a personal brand, more so going into different industries. So specifically for like media-based industries, I think it's definitely fair game for an employer to see like what your personal brand is and what you're marketing for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so scary because personally, I know that I'm going into media. I know a few of us here are, and it is a scary feeling knowing that whatever you're putting out there, right, like you said, fair game. That's a really interesting term. Suman, what do you think?
That's exactly what I think as well. I do agree with Alesia. Like if it's public, then it's fair game because people are going to look at your social media whether you like it or not. There's going to be so much uninvited attention from all sides, whether it be social media companies or random strangers, whatever it is. So I do agree that when it's public, yeah, people can check it. But if it's private, then, that's their personal choice. And I think that's completely fine. It's okay if social media companies cannot access it. They do not have the right to come and ask you to show your social media profile. And I think that's completely fine. What do you think, BiBi?
I don't agree. I feel like social media shouldn't be measured as a part of my job history. And I know any of my friends who hear this is going to think that sounds crazy because especially when Black Lives Matter was super high at the end of the summer, like people were getting fired left and right for stuff that they were posting. But I don't know. I just feel like it's a space that I'm using outside of work. If I'm using social media in work, maybe like that would be a thing. So if I was a social media manager or if I was on the PR side of things, but as long as I'm not utilizing my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., while I'm at the job, then I don't see a reason for that to be considered in my whether or not I get the position or the role. So I'm on the other end.
That's really interesting because over the summer I worked for a certain company, a certain news organization, who told us very clearly, they said, you work for this organization, you do not post any political posts. Because if you post something that, and then someone could see it and they know that you work for this company, that could be damaging to our company. And that limits me and my, political opinions. But then again, like I said, I want to be a journalist, so I shouldn't be doing it in the first place. It's a very fine line between what you can and can't do,
Yeah, definitely.
Different though, because in that situation, your employer let you know up front, like we prefer this to not happen. But if you're like, I'm going into a job interview, I don't think that should be a part of my resume is you checking my socials.
Yeah, you think that, but when you're looking at an employer or talking to an employer, they very might outright disagree.
You brought up a great point, Lianna. Kind of like it's difficult because at times an employer deems what's appropriate. So for that matter, I think especially all being women, we can be scrutinized a little bit more. For example, I covered a PR event as a reporter a couple years back, and a professional at a panel, he outright said, and ladies, make sure to take down any bikini photos or photos with alcohol because, that could be damaging to our company. So what do you guys think about something like that?
I don't like that. And I know like maybe maybe I'm living in like a fantasy world, but I just feel like that's so in a way it's invasive. I know that's like opposite, like it's hypocritical because we're posting this stuff online, but I feel like it is invasive. Like I should be able to post pictures of my vacation and post pictures of me having drinks with friends without that being damaging to the brand. But also, if you put that in my employee contract, that's a different situation. So I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, and it also, I think it depends a lot about age too, because if I'm nowadays, if I post a picture, if I post a picture of me with a drink in hand, I'm 21 years old, like that's legal, I'm not breaking any laws, but you know, a few years ago, if I were to do that at the beginning of college, perhaps I would feel much more uncomfortable keeping that up. Now I'm like, it's legal, I'm allowed to enjoy a drink, that's not breaking any laws. But if it were illegal and a company is looking back and like searching about me, which BiBi, like you said, should they even be doing it? I don't know. But I'm along the lines of like, I know they're going to do it. I know they're going to do it. And I don't want it to affect my job. So.
It's just such a hard thing because I remember my sophomore year of college, my track coach, he was talking to me about a recruit. And then like 2 weeks later, he said, never mind, she's not coming. And I was like, well, why? And he said, I found a picture of her holding a beer. And I was like, okay, obviously she's underage because she hadn't even entered college yet, but like you went looking in her like private past to try to find a reason to disqualify her. And I guess that is, I have worked in HR before, and that is a thing, is finding more so reasons to disqualify somebody than to qualify them because it's easier, right? So I understand, but again, I'm on the side of let that be my virtual diary for my friend. Or we're all gonna be out here having 2 social medias, like 2 IG pages, 2 Twitters, so that we can have our personal stuff and our professional stuff.
And BiBi, that's a popular thing nowadays that a lot of people do start to have personal and public. So this conversation clearly could keep going, but I'm going to move on to our next topic. I love that. Thank you, ladies. This question pertains to social media and dating. So switching topics a little bit, but still related to social media. At what point do you post your significant other on social media? And if you break up, do you delete them afterwards, or are they there forever?
When I get a ring. Okay. So when I get a ring is when I post you on my social media. I will post our wedding and that is it. I don't feel like relationships are so sticky. I don't feel like that is something that I need to be putting out there. If I post my boo on my social media, there's definitely an emoji covering his face. I don't tag him because people will try to get involved. Like people can tell when you're fighting, when you're upset about stuff, because you know you're posting little subliminals or little memes to make yourself feel better. Nope, you don't need to know who that is until my last name changes. But Suman, what do you think? Because I see you nodding over there.
I completely agree. I'm a very private person, so even if I do have a boyfriend, he's not coming on social media at all, because I do have some relatives in my social media, so I just can't let them see it, because then my grandparents and my family is gonna know before me telling them, and that's just gonna be a whole another issue. So, and also there's also an extra hassle in case you do break up, then you kind of have to go remove your social media pictures. I haven't done this ever, but I think I'd be okay with keeping pictures of the person on my social media if I do. Because I don't know, you can't just erase a whole memory and just kind of remove it off social media. I just don't think that's okay. But again, I haven't been in the situation, so I can't speak for everyone. But if I did end up keeping it on social media, you know, and if we do break up, it's going to stay on there. It's okay with me. What do you think, Alesia?
Yeah, I'm definitely with Suman on that one. I've never been in this situation. So, but I'm also a very private person, so I don't think I would post my significant other on social media. And then on the flip side of that, if we were to break up, I don't know. I feel like it depends how you break up. If you delete those photos, I think like when people delete photos of their partner on social media, it's like pretty indicative that they like want to wipe them away right away. But I think Suman made a wonderful point that you can't erase like an entire chapter of your life. And of course, social media isn't your life in your head, but it's part of it.
Y'all, I am just listening to all of you over here. If you open up any of my social medias right now,
Yeah.
I am on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's not that I have pictures of my current boyfriend all over the place, everywhere. You can tell I'm in a relationship in 3 seconds. Like, and that's the thing, like but the thing is, he definitely started posting before me. Like, he was a little bit more like, I'm getting on my social media. And I was like, okay, why? We're already in a relationship. Who do we have to prove it to? Like, it's just you and me. Like, why do we have to prove it to the outside world? But then it was like, it was fun. I was his first girlfriend. So he was like, I want to put you everywhere. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's not overdo it, but sure. And then I am a fan of like, we had a fun date today, or we went to a really pretty place, or like, I really enjoy your company and I want to post a picture of you for all my friends to see. Like, it's very interesting hearing you all say that. You're like, nah, private. And I'm like, I kind of want people to see, like, it's kind of fun.
No, you can see, but there'll be something covering his face. Only my close friends need to know who he is, what he looks like. But I'm on the opposite side of Suman and Alesia when it comes to the deleting, because I hear where you guys are coming from. Like, you can't delete that part of your life, but I can delete that part of my life on social media. Like, that could be triggering for me to see that, especially if it was a really bad breakup. So I'm pro deleting the pictures after the relationship has ended, but I wouldn't be posting pictures anyway. So
Right. No, I am pro delete after the breakup as well. I have been through one breakup in my life, and I won't lie, it took a little while to get there though.
yeah.
Like, pressing delete, and y'all are gonna make fun of me, I don't even have my ex deleted, he's archived. So if I ever want to go back and look at the photos, I can, but other people can't.
But what does your current boyfriend know that?
Yes, he does. He does.
He doesn't care?
No, because it's not like I'm laying in bed at night looking at my archived posts. It's just like there. Like, it's the whole history thing. Like, I don't have it in me to just delete those forever and ever and ever, because that was a part of my life. That was part of how I grew up. It's part of who I am. This was a long relationship, and I don't want to just like delete it. It's very strange.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's really interesting how relationships have evolved with social media. You know, like prior to this, it's not really a conversation that couples used to have, but now that is something that happens. It's like, are you comfortable with me posting you? Vice versa. Like, you know, you have to get the person's permission. You have to talk when you both feel comfortable with it. So it's really interesting. It's a whole other element. It's kind of having this kind of public facade you kind of have to put up with your partner, because BiBi, you brought up like, well, people will know we're fighting, et cetera, things like that. Is, you know, people are invasive. Maybe they've always been, but now they have the tools to do it even more.
And I was just gonna say that, because as soon as you brought it back up, I'm like, I remember being like the not so good friend on Facebook and like, well, I need to know how this ends. Like, going back and checking statuses, trying to see what people were saying, like what was going on. Are they going back and forth? Like, is it just over? So I don't know. I know what it's like to be the nosy person, so maybe that's why I'm so guarded about it. But yeah, I definitely am not posting until you see a wedding ring on my finger.
BiBi, I'll be looking out for it. I'm gonna be the nosy friend this time around. I'm gonna
keep now we'll all be nosy.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you, ladies. Well, we clearly have lots more talking to do, but we're gonna toss it to a short break, and when we come back, we might have to age ourselves for the next few topics. So we'll find out about that when we come back. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's dive into our next topic. So for the second half of the show, we're going to pretend we're a few years in the future and that we're all parents. Okay, so everyone put your parents' hats on. We know bad stuff happens on social media. So as a parent, what age will you let your kid join social media? What age did you all join? Alesia.
I think I was in middle school, but I had to do it secretly. I made a Facebook account because I was really big at the time and I wasn't allowed. So I made like a secret one behind my mom's back, which of course she found out about. I think by the time that I have children, kids want social media now when they're like 5. And I don't think that I would be okay with that personally. I think I would want them to be a little bit older. I think middle school was an okay time to start. But I don't know, times are changing so fast. Suman, what do you think?
I had social media with permission from my parents. My dad created my first Gmail account. He created my Facebook account. He was my first friend on Facebook, and then my second friend was my mom. So yeah, it was around like 14, 15-ish, and I only did it because, well, I needed to socialize in class, and I was a very shy person. Couldn't speak to a guy next to me, but I could talk to them over the phone. That was it. So it was like really hard for me to do it. And I was like, I really need a social media account because I'm slowly becoming the outcast in class. So, we found out I went on social media and I have a lot of best friends on that. So it's pretty cool. I think when it comes to kids, I would probably give them around that age-ish too, because during that time when I was very shy and almost feeling like an outcast, it's very hard to kind of get your just to talk to your classmates in person, because you're just dwelling on a lot of feelings. You're not sure how people think of you, and it can really be exacerbated if you're isolated from everyone. I did have my group of friends, but they were isolated too. So we had like the cool kids and the not so cool kids, and I was in the not so cool kids. So social media was just a way for me to jump in and make friends with them and try to talk to them, because I was comfortable via social media but not in person. What do you think, BiBi?
Oh wow. I think that your story is interesting because I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, Phoebe, I think I am on a similar page as you, and to be honest with you all, I think I'm going to wait as long as possible to get my on social media. It terrifies me. I still struggle with it sometimes. If you can believe that,
I get that. I feel like something that's really popular now is TikTok. I don't have one, nor do I know much about it, but I know all my friends that have little siblings are on it. And I feel like that invasive auntie, because when I see them, I'm like, is all your stuff private, kids? Like, you're not posting anything? And they're like, yes, yes. And I'm like, well, people can be weird and creepy. And so they're like 10 years old and they're posting kind of dances to excuse me, explicit music, although they don't understand what it means. Like, they're still absorbing that. So it's not my place to tell somebody else, like, take your kids off this platform, but I think it's very important at that age to monitor what your kids do. I think Suman's parents that created their account and were looking over it, that's a great way to be a part of the conversation. So maybe if they post something that can be disagreeable, then let's have a conversation about it, not putting the child down.
I do agree with Alesia on that. That's where parents' communication with their kids become very, very crucial, because you want to create an inclusive space for your kids to come and talk to you about everything. Yes, you may say, yes, come and talk to me about anything you want, but then the moment they do, you kind of go angry at them and you get pissed at them for doing such a thing. So just having to talk with them and really understand and empathize with their feelings, and kind of keeping in mind their mental state at that point, their age, all of that, and just kind of communicate properly with them and talk to them about things is very important. And that's something that could let you not make fake accounts, because I think, I'm assuming, I might be wrong, but you probably were not comfortable with your parents seeing that you have an account online on social media at such a young age. So you probably were not as communicative or as talkative to your parents because of that. So I understand that completely. So that's where communication comes. And I think that's what our generation will be good at doing as well, since we've gone through so many hiccups with our parents and our grandparents. And I think it's going to be a beautiful generation that we're going to have.
Thank you, ladies. Now on to our last topic. So I'm curious if you guys have ever heard of this. There's a group called the BiBis, and they are children born with an assigned sex, but their parents choose for them to be gender neutral at birth. And then when the kid is old enough to understand what gender really is, the parents then let them choose a gender identity that suits them. And since we, the women of We Need to Talk, believe that gender is a social construct, these parents do not believe it is necessary to share the assigned sex from birth of the child. Is this something that you would want to do with your kids? And what are your thoughts about this? Will this benefit the world? Is this the direction we're headed in? What do we think?
Yeah, I don't think I would hide my child's assigned sex, but I would allow them to express themselves in any way that they want. So I wouldn't kind of constrain their gender expression. I myself work as a nanny and I've been in childcare for a few years. So I've seen kind of like how our generation and that before us raises their kids. And it's really interesting because I'll see little girls with like a buzz cut and little boys with really long hair. And I love it because other kids will confuse their gender and then they'll correct them. They'll say like, no, I'm a boy with long hair. And I like that. I think kids should be free to express themselves in any way that they like. Simone, what do you think?
That's also what I think when it comes to like I won't go to the extent of hiding my child's like biological sex. Like I don't know. I feel like that would just confuse the child a little bit more. I don't know statistics. I don't know research on it, but I'm assuming that's what's gonna happen. But you know, as they get older, they're more than likely and they're more than welcome to kind of go and express themselves and you know find their identity and make their mark in the world. What do you think, BB?
I don't know. This one is a tough one for me because in my department, I'm in the Department of Africology, and in learning about African matriarchal culture, we learned that sex and gender is one thing. Like it's not two separate things. So for me, I would probably like treat if my child is born a female at birth, I'm going to raise my child as a female. I think children do let you know at certain points what they like, what they don't like. So I think that having that open communication that we were talking about in the last segment about social media goes for everything, right? Like we're not just going to be open about that. We're going to be open about every aspect of our lives. So I think that at some point, if that's something that my child wants to do, they'll be able to express that to me. But up until they can actually, where I feel like they're at an appropriate age to make that decision, I'm not going to hide their gender or refer to them as they. I respect other people's pronouns, but my children will be he or she as they are assigned at birth. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a tough question. I can't say for sure what I would do yet. I don't know. I don't know where life is going to take me. I don't know where I will stand on this topic when I decide to have kids. Obviously, growing up, I would go with, you know, oh yeah, you're born a he or a she. But now hearing about this kind of thing and like being introduced, you know, to these new ways of raising children, like I'm not opposed to it. I don't know yet. And I can speak very personally to this topic because, like I mentioned, I have a boyfriend, and my boyfriend's actually transgender. So he has taught me so much about this topic, about gender, about sex, how they're different, or BB, how you say they're one. You know, everyone has different beliefs on it. But you mentioned, you know, you would let your kid, you know, choose who they want to be when they this right. And that's exactly what he did. You know, he being assigned female at birth, and then, you know, 10, 15 years later saying, actually, this doesn't fit me. This doesn't fit me. I'm actually a boy. You should all know I'm a boy. That's hard to do. A lot of people find it difficult to do. For him, not so much, because that's who he is, you know? A lot of people love to say to him, and to the trans community as well, oh, you don't look like you're trans. Oh, you don't act like you're trans. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know what a trans person looks or acts like. You know what I mean? Does anyone, you know, have any thoughts about this? Or
I do. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, you don't know what the scope of your life is going to lead to. But like with your boyfriend, he was able to make that decision at a later age, and he's still able to live a fruitful life in the gender that he feels like is what embodies who he is, right? So that's why I don't think it's something that needs to be, oh, we'll just let our child run free and genderless. Like, if we believe, as we need to talk, that gender is a social construct, race is also a social construct. I'm not going to give birth to my child and not let them know that they are Black, because if I don't tell them, somebody else will. And I feel like that's an important aspect. Like, you should know, okay, this is what it is right now. But as you get older, you can make decisions if you're not comfortable being X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I disagree with the they babies, but I understand the concept of letting your child assume who they want to be.
Right.
You know, I think it is. It's so hard to decide because it's hypothetical and it's not, because I'm assuming we all want children. So we might be in a position, you know, come 10, 15 years where we have to make these choices. And I think that you brought up a good point, BiBi, that even if we don't tell our child, like make it clear what gender they are, other people are. And so how do you handle that if you raise your child gender neutral and everybody calls them by the pronoun as they present as? So I don't know, that's also would be a difficult conversation that you have, is like, although you may raise your child gender neutral, society might not always accept that.
I didn't even think of that, Alesia. I hadn't even thought of that. And that would be very, I don't want to say upsetting. It would be tough. I don't know how a child would respond to that, thinking that they're gender neutral and they don't fit into, you know, any binary of any type. And then boom, their world is kind of, you know. So thank you all for sharing and allowing us to all hear each other out. I know it's an intense topic, so thank you all for letting me share and all of you sharing as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Definitely shared some personal information, and I think it's great that you and your boyfriend are open to discussing that. So
yes, thank you. And of course, I always, you know, ask him beforehand, are you comfortable with me sharing this kind of thing without getting too personal or too detailed? Like he likes that I share it in, you know, the correct way or just his story, because it helps other people learn.
Yeah,
100%.
That's this whole thing with my family, with my friends, with everyone that knows me. It's always like, well, if you want to learn, then I'm happy to help. So thank you guys for letting me share. And we're going to wrap it up. So everyone give it up for our amazing, amazing team. Thank you all. Be sure to check out our episode. And why not give us a follow on social media while you're at it too. You can find us at We Need to Talk on social media and watch us on TUTV on Comcast 50 and Verizon 45. So I'm Lianna Golden, and the ladies of We Need to Talk will see you next time.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.